My name is Sarah Diaz, and this is my informative speech. Most adults enjoy coffee. Coffee is something that is used all around the world. Unless you are in the coffee scene, usually you just think that there is regular brewed coffee. But in fact, there's actually a lot of different variations of coffee in the way that it's made. Today I'm going to go through the different variations, and I'm going to also explain to you the different types of roasts. The types of variations that I'm going to go through today are espresso, cold brew, and French press. I'm also going to explain to you the difference between light roast, medium, and dark roast. You may ask how I know this information or what gives me the right to talk about it. I'm going to give you a little bit of background. I worked at a coffee shop for 6 years called Caribou Coffee. I managed it, and I was able to train a lot of people, which gave me kind of an insight on things that go right and things that go wrong when it comes to coffee and how to fix them. This is something that I have enjoyed since I got trained in on how to make coffee, and it's actually something that has brought me many friends in my life. The person that makes coffee is called a barista, and they often take that title very seriously. When you work at a coffee shop, you often have different ways of making coffee, but it's all around the same method. And I would say probably the worst part about being a barista is having to go to a different coffee shop and order your coffee from a different barista that doesn't know you. In this situation, you're often afraid that they're not going to make it the right way or that they haven't been trained correctly. So you sit and you wait and you watch her make your coffee, hoping that she's making it the right way. Once she hands you the coffee, you taste it. If it tastes good, then you earn a little bit of respect for that barista because she did it correctly. That job is very fun, but it's often exhilarating and also kind of stressful. One thing people don't know is that coffee is made in different variations, but from the same bean. So you can have one bag of coffee and make many variations of that coffee just with the same exact bean. One thing that people don't know is that espresso is used the same bean as regular brewed coffee. The difference between espresso and coffee is the way that you grind it. There are different grinds. The grind that you will use for espresso is going to be a fine powder compared to regular coffee, which is going to be a little bit more coarse than the fine powder. Once you have this fine powder, you're going to put it in a mechanism that is shaped a little bit like a bowl, just like this. And that powder is going to go in there, and you're going to be compacting it. And once it is compacted, hot water is going to shoot through there, and it is so fine that the water is going to basically take all the flavor and it will be very robust. This information is going to help you understand the different types of coffee that we're going to be making. A lot goes into making espresso. When you make espresso, it is very important that your machine is calibrated that is grinding the coffee beans. If it is not calibrated correctly, the coffee will not taste correctly. There is often a lever on the machine that will help you put the correct grind on. The only way to know if it is correct is to be able to taste it. You can also time it, and then you'll pay attention to the look of the foam and the espresso. Espresso is time sensitive. Often people will say that it doesn't matter, but once you taste a fresh shot versus a burnt shot, you will know the difference. A burnt shot is a part of the espresso that has been left for more than 30 seconds. At this point, it is called burnt. A fresh shot is going to taste very sweet and fresh. is going to be more creamy. The foam is going to be creamy. A burnt shot, which is left after 30 seconds, is going to taste very bitter and will leave a bad taste in your mouth, and there will be almost no foam. If not, the foam will be dark. This process is important because the taste of the espresso will affect the whole drink that you are making. The next process that I'm going to be explaining is cold brew coffee. This is going to be something that's very popular recently, which is definitely understandable because it's a very good taste of coffee. It's a great way to brew your coffee. The difference is the way that it's made. It is the same grind as regular coffee, but the process is different. People often think that cold brew coffee is coffee that was made regularly and put in the refrigerator to become cold, but that's not the case. In this case, you will grind your coffee regularly and you will put it in a sack like this, which then will be placed in the water for 24 hours at room temperature. 24 hours is the maximum time that you can leave a coffee brewing for cold brew. You will eventually find what time works best for you. 24 hours is going to be the darkest that it will be. You can take it out sooner or take it out at the 24 hours. If you do end up leaving it in over 24 hours, it will taste burnt, almost like the espresso. So this process is also important to make sure that you have good tasting cold brew coffee. The next method I'm going to be explaining is a French press. The French press is almost a very delicate way of making coffee. It is just regular coffee, but the difference is that you will be using this mechanism here. The difference between regular brewed coffee and the French press is that the French press uses a metal filter and regular brewed coffee often uses a paper filter. And when you use a paper filter, the water that goes through and the beans that go through, the coffee that comes out, the oil from the beans, the natural beans, is left in the filter. So with the French press here, you are going to grind your coffee, and this will be a much coarser grind than the regular brewed coffee because it's going to soak in the water. They're going to soak in together. So once it is in there and you have it ground and the water's in there, you're going to leave it in for 4 minutes. Once the 4 minutes is done, you're going to press the metal filter through the coffee and the water, and that will remove it. That way you're able to pour it into your cup. And the main reason that people love this is because the oils are not removed from the coffee. So when you drink it, you taste all of the natural oils. There are different types of beans and roasts. The difference is that beans start off as green coffee beans. That's called a raw bean. Once the coffee is roasted, then it becomes actual coffee that can be brewed. The different types of coffees are light roast, medium roast, and dark roast. There are different variations within that. Different countries call them different things, but these are the main ones that you can find anywhere. One thing that people don't know is that light roast actually has the most caffeine versus dark roast. And the reason is that dark roast has been roasted much longer than the light roast. When the coffee bean is roasted, the caffeine comes out of the bean. It is roasted out of the bean. There are beans from all over the world, and this is why I said that coffee is something that brings the world together. Every single country has their own type of coffee bean, and they're roasted in a different way. There are very different countries that have specific flavors of what their beans are that come that are produced out of that country. Here's a flavor chart, for example, that you can find online that will help you distinguish what kind of coffee that you want to be drinking or types that you would like to try. For example, Costa Rica is often a light roast, and it has very floral flavors in the light roast. It's very light and florally. In Africa, the beans are often very fruity, and people like to say they often resemble drinking wine, and they're usually a little bit darker. I hope that this information has given you a little bit of insight into the coffee world and sparks a light in your heart to get to know coffee better. Thank you.